Well, welcome to Inside the Champion's Mind, episode 102. This show is dedicated to helping you overcome mediocrity in pursuit of being world-class in life, love, and legacy. I'm Laurence.tham.
And I'm Karen.tham.
And we are the co-host of the Inside the Champion's Mind podcast. I'm excited. I am super, super excited about this episode.
You should be.
Yeah, I think so. Because it's the second episode where my wife and I...
We did it!
We did it. We survived episode 1.
We made it to 2.
Yeah, you know, it's I don't know. How did you feel about your first podcast?
It was good. I didn't know he was recording. So some people said to me, you didn't smile a lot. You didn't look at the camera. I didn't know we were recording. And he kept looking at the computer screen. And while I'm thinking, at the same time, I'm thinking, why is he talking to the computer? And then it dawned on me slowly, he's recording this at the same time.
Yes. So if you did catch that, we actually did our first video podcast on Inside Champion's Mind. Although also most of you will be listening to the audio version, but there is a video version. You get to see my beautiful wife. That's probably the more important video. That's why I did it, because she makes me look good. And so you can go to YouTube channel and you can look under Inside the Champion's Mind. And you should be able to find it there. So we've had hundreds of views, which is fantastic. Yeah. And we had lots of comments, so thank you very much for those people commenting. I just want to give shout out to a few because I think it was great to hear. I think it was great for you to be able to to hear that people enjoyed it. A lot of people have been saying like how they enjoyed the female voice on the podcast. They loved the wife being on there and just having different perspective from me.
I think it's because I'm probably not talking about sports.
Yeah, come on now. Come on now.
Although we are surrounded by sports memorabilia.
Yes, you're in the champion's lair now. You're in the champion's lair.
And perhaps we can move the lair somewhere nicer.
Yeah, she's so concerned about background. Me, I just want to get it done. So this is the best setup we got. And if you want a better setup, a better background, we'll have to look into it. But hey, we had to get it out. We had to get these podcasts out. So this is what we got.
Shout outs to a few people. Wendy, thank you so much for your comments. Katie, one of my really good friends back in Perth, she even took the time to listen and to watch the video. So thank you. There's so many people we could actually
Trisha,
be thanking.
There's so many people like Mandy, Helen, Jackson, even Jackson, Christoph, commented, and we got Nick Kushmich from Canada, from obviously good friends of ours. Caitlin McGregor, so many people. We literally thank you so much. I'm blown away because this podcast has been my sort of like passion and love really. And when I now that we brought Karen on board, it's just changed the dynamics a bit. And for Marcus, it's just different, and I'm really excited. And she is like a trooper. I knew that when I brought her on, she already created like I think probably 15 topics, and we're done for the year pretty much on what we're going to talk about. So, see, I needed that organization in my life, so therefore she's there. So I just want to say thank you for everybody, for all the listeners, and for all the people who actually took the time to comment, to watch the video or listen to the podcast, and actually made a comment on Inside Champions Mind, the Facebook page, and took the time to comment. I think it's really great to be able to hear. And also people who actually sent email. So
yeah, we had some comments for some shows as well, which is actually where we're going to be going with today's show. But before we get into that, we've had a crazy week. It's been a nuts.
It's been a nuts.
You sound like you're. It's been a nuts. It's been a crazy week. It has. It's been of Olympic proportions. You have had a Herculean effort, and in honor of the Olympics, I've got a little special surprise for you today.
Oh man.
Because Laurence has not only won the Daddy Olympics for hurdles, the husband award for long distance marathon. I would like to present to you this lovely gold. Wait. No, it's not chocolate. So you can have it. Okay. No, if it was chocolate, you can have it. But this lovely, I might mess the hair up. I don't know, this lovely award. For taking over this week, because you may notice that my voice is a little bit lower and a little bit nasally.
You got the sexy husky voice right now.
It's can you hear me? I'm so nasally. But maybe you can talk about what happened this past week that has earned you this lovely gold award.
This is unexpected.
It's a first, isn't it?
It is a first. Yeah, she surprised me. This is
lifting
awesome.
The bar.
It's going to be hard to come back from. I mean, how to reach the standard. Thank you very much. I can't remember what happened yesterday actually. So it's I guess this week's challenge has been Karen has been unwell, and she's been she's been sick. She had the flu and she's
all
coughing and she's been nasally and mucus. And on top of that, we had our daughter's wedding, Kaya's
wedding.
Oh my God! Sorry, absolutely not.
No,
her birthday, her eighth birthday on Friday, and she had a birthday party. And Karen, when she does a birthday party, trust me, it's you will want to be invited. You want to be on that invite list. So, and anyway, so she had to prepare for that. But the week leading up to it, though, unfortunately, she was absolutely...
I could barely get out of bed.
Yeah. It was.
I was in pajamas all week. This is good for me today. I'm dressed. My hair is done. But you had to get the kids to school. You had to do all the things I normally do on top of your normal work thing. And you didn't get a lot of sleep either because Christian is also sick at the same time. So you were trying to deal with him while I was dying in the other room. It's been... There's a red X on our door because do not come near because we are full of germs. In fact, I think we may need to enter the witness protection program because germs seem to know where we live right now.
Oh, I'm kind of immune to it. I don't know what's wrong with you guys.
You've just cursed yourself now. You have brought it on. Just things you don't say.
Yeah. I should knock on wood or something.
But that was kind of making me think because one of our lovely listeners did type in. Did you want to talk about what his question was?
Yeah, so I don't want to name this person because obviously I don't know if I had permission. So, but let's not name them and say you know who you are. I think that one of the he wanted to know with the champion mindset to manage about how to deal with situations when it comes to adversity. Not that our week was
no.
In your mind obviously was adversity, but I mean
cakewalk.
Yeah, it's a cakewalk compared to the things that we've actually gone through. We'll probably talk a little bit about that in our past history, and some of you might know. But basically, he's had he's had a number of health challenges from fibromyalgia, heart palpitations, digestive issues, and it's taken its toll. And even considering that he says that he's eating clean and is moving well, and also focusing on a great mindset, it's very difficult for him to kind of deal with those daily challenges. And he wanted us to kind of go, how can we do an episode on maybe where some days it feels like you're taking two steps forward, but you're taking actually 5 steps back at the same time. And he believes that obviously there's a lot of people out there who are going to go through the same thing. And the truth is,
when is life perfect? When is it fantastic that, yay, so easy to keep a positive mindset when things are going well? What about when things aren't going well? What can we do? And that's a great question. So that got added to the list. So thank you for that. And keep those other questions coming in that we can talk about them as well. So.
Yeah, add it on top of the other 20 topics that we got to get through somehow in the next year or so. We might have to make this a weekly podcast. So now, before you jump on the comments and say you need a weekly podcast, like let's slow it down a little bit. We'll consider it. But I think it is a challenge for all of us and everybody. I think what happens in today's over-communicated social media type of world, we only see one facet. And we talked about this with Marcus several times about we see on Facebook all the good things. And so therefore we see that everybody else is having a great life, but we're struggling, on the inside.
Yeah.
But that's just not true. It's not true. I think it's really important for us to realize that the Facebook world is not the real world. Okay?
And neither is Pinterest. Pinterest can be my friend or my downfall because I see all these mummies who have amazing sequin skills, hot glue gun skills, and I think I can do that. And then when I can't quite get there in time or in ready, it sets the bar high, and then you're comparing yourself to these people who have these wonderful, perfect lives. But as you say, it's just a snapshot of what they want you to see.
And the crazy thing is that you're actually the standard for what most people look up to regards to, party and, decorations and stuff. But that's just beside the point. It is a big challenge. I think, you struggle through this week and, emotionally and mindset wise, you struggle through this. Like, why am I still sick? I've had a really bad sickness early in the year when I came back from America. When I came back, I was gone for 9 days, which was unusual for me. Even 24 hours it's a big thing for me, but 9 days was a big tough, and we talked about that. But it's a challenge for you. What was going through your mind? What was some of the difficulties, although compared to other things that other people have mentioned? It's not about the thing. Like, it's not about you getting the flu or you have fibromyalgia or you have cancer or whatever. I'm not putting any of those down, but what's important is like what you're going through is exactly what other people are going through in their own respective
in their mindset. It's what's significant to you at that time.
Yes, exactly. So what was going through your mind? What was some of the challenges you know?
It's hard when you've been trying to work up to, say, working out, and you've been going really well in doing that, and then you get sick, and then a week goes by, and then another week, and then another week, and you just start getting a bit down because you're doing so well. And to try and get back into that again, and to do your daily routines and things that are tiring you out. And for me as a mom, not feeling like I can be there for my kids 100% and doing what I needed to do. Like, I forgot to go to some of Christian's appointments. I couldn't even go in and help at the library. Like, I felt like massive mom failures this week because I couldn't pull it together enough to do the things I committed to do for them. And, that brings you down.
Yeah, and I think right goes down to, to answer some of the questions that our listener actually had, is about expectation. So what ends up happening, like you just described about you being a mom, right? And you have this expectation of what a model mom should be in your mind, right? Yeah. And all of a sudden, when you can't do those things and when you can't live up to those things, unfortunately, it creates this gap of like, I should be X, but I'm actually nowhere close to X. I'm actually more of a Y right now. And then all of a sudden, it's like you have this disparity of this gap that all of a sudden you go, then you put, basically just feeling of a void in which then you put yourself down. And that's the struggle, right? The struggle is hard enough to struggle through a cold or flu or whatever health issues that you might be dealing with. But it's almost like this expectation of yourself, right? Not anybody else, even just yourself, that you have to be at this level. And when you can't do that, because that's what's normal to us, you have that gap. And that goes with exercise. It goes through your body image, and it goes through, any health challenges anybody ever had. And that is a huge, huge thing. And, one of the things that we actually have to have, one of the, I guess, solutions, it's not a solution per se, but something to keep in mind is to sometimes remember is that our expectation of ourselves is really a lot stronger or we're harder on ourselves than everybody else sees of us. And I think it's about making sure that our expectations actually fits the reality that we're actually living in, and lowering that expectation of ourselves, which is hard for people who are perfectionism, and I am guilty of that too as well, is that when we have certain perfectionism in ourselves, we're always striving to become better. Like it's hard to create hair like this every single day. No, I'm just joking. But I'm just trying to downplay this. But I mean, it's really important. You all right?
Well, maybe we can go back to, because that's not that big a deal, being sick. But maybe we can go back to an experience that happened in my life when my parents had moved to Australia. I'd been here how long had they been? 7 weeks, and we had a massive change in our life. Now, have we spoken about this on the show?
I've done a talk on it, but I'm not sure if we ever discussed it on the show. So let's put this back in context, because you're we lived through it.
So we'll really briefly go into it and then talk about what strategies we use to go through it. So picture yourself, it's Christmas Day, and we had both Laurence's parents and my parents at our house, and we announced to them that we were pregnant and expecting our first child. So everything was wonderful. It was a lovely hot day, and I suggested after dinner, why didn't we go for a swim at the beach? So we did.
It was actually breakfast. Was at lunchtime, I think.
No, it was at dinner.
Was it?
Dinner time.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay. Memories.
Well, this one unfortunately is kind of seared into my brain, because after dinner, it was my decision and my suggestion we go for a swim. And we did. We got into the water, and my dad wasn't a very good swimmer, and about 2 seconds later, he was only up to his chest in water, and a medium-sized wave came. Nothing major at all. And I said to him, Dad, watch out, there's a wave, knowing that he wasn't very good in the water. And the wave went over my head, and when I came up, my life changed forever, because when I looked at my father, he was now face down in the water. And, quickly turned him over. I thought he'd had a stroke at first, and it eventually became apparent that he had had a spinal injury and had broke his neck, ultimately becoming a tetraplegic. Now, for people who don't know, that's arms, legs, and also not being able to breathe for yourself. So that's our scenario. I think I was maybe 10 weeks pregnant, Christmas Day, in an emergency room, learning that this is what's happened to my father, this is what's going to be happening, and that was our life for 3 years until, unfortunately, he passed on.
Yeah.
So I think that's probably the best example I can talk about, and perhaps yourself as well, as to it was a really rough place we were in. How did we stay positive? How did we deal with it? How did we try to have a champion's mindset? And certainly knowing I had a baby growing inside me, and I didn't want to have my emotions and my thoughts affect the baby.
Well, I think one of the key things is that, having studied a lot as a chiropractor, and also study about, emotions and everything else, and really knowing the fact that in studies have shown that what a mother goes through emotionally, is what the child goes through or experiences. So when the child is going through, growing inside the mother's womb, they have no experience the reality that they live in terms of the world. And the only experience, the environment that they believe they're going to grow into, is the environment of the woman. Okay, so we get to see and experience the environment, and we still get to control that, but they can't. They just basically experience life based on the woman's environment. So whatever stresses the mother goes through, the fetus is actually choosing the genes selected from the parents, and then preparing themselves for the next 9 months to prepare for this environment, this world they're expected to come out of. And so if they live in a very stressful environment, they're going to select genes that will help them deal with in a stressful environment. And knowing all this stuff, I mean, we can go into it in massive detail, but I don't want to too much. But knowing that, I had to make sure Karen had to really stay as focused as possible, given the situation. You just imagine, put yourself in that situation there. Given your dad had just became tetraplegic or quadriplegic, and all of a sudden have lost the ability to move, and now in facing life and death, and then somehow we got to be able to create this for you to stay as calm as possible. I can't, for me, trying to control the situation is very, very difficult, because I can't control how she feels. I can't control, but I can influence her. And that was the thing that I knew I could do. I could try to influence our situation as best as possible, and not tell you what to do, because that wouldn't have helped. Right? That would not have helped.
You've learned that lesson.
Yes, we've been together for 20 years. So, but it's more to really just influence and remind her to stay focused and change the things that we can change. And at that moment in time, really, there was nothing we could have done. We were both doing AR and CPR with your dad, but once that everything was sorted, once we got him to the hospital, really was left to the hands of the medical profession. Yeah. And we could do all the influence that we could do by proper nutrition. We can try to do from an adjustment point of view, from a chiropractic point of view, stimulation of the nervous system. We could change the way he moved and exercise and stretches on top of the physio that he was going through. But what we could change was how it affected us.
So what you're saying basically, though, is that we chose to focus on what we could change, not what we couldn't.
That's right.
Yeah. And so I was really mindful of that, because I did not want the baby that was growing inside. I mean, at that point, we didn't know if it was a boy or girl, to come out in a stressed environment, or to even possibly lose the baby if I was in that state as well. So having a higher purpose more than myself, I think, knowing that there was this person growing inside of me that needed me to be there for them, I think in some ways that kind of helped me detach to be able to deal with that situation, because I had to put somebody in front of myself, and I had to worry about that person, because it's really easy to if it's just ourselves, is to not worry about ourselves and to put ourselves last. And as moms, or as other people as well, I think we're usually on the bottom of the totem pole. We're making sure everybody else is okay and everyone else is fine and everybody else, but there's never enough time usually for us with everything fitting in. So that was one, putting it in front. The second thing is you have an amazing array and selection of mindset recordings and audiobooks and positive things to listen to. And every day I would go and I would walk and I would just plug it in and I would listen. And it was amazing, because whatever I needed to hear that day, I usually found it somewhere in that recording. I didn't specifically go looking for it, but I heard something that I needed to hear that helped me process things and put my mind in a better place. So that would be another thing I would suggest, especially when you're feeling down. The sun made an amazing difference, being out in the sun, or sitting in front of the ocean or somewhere beautiful, and putting something into your ears to listen to that is going to help condition your mind and your brain into thinking differently and break any negative patterns that you're having. Because really, as you were saying earlier to me, someday you can't just set a goal that I will be doing this today, I'll be doing this in 5 days. Sometimes it was just by the minute.
Yeah. Well, absolutely. Like, I think, let's recap that, because I think the why is very important. It starts there. The why of what are you doing this for, and realization that was from someone else. I'm just trying to imagine if you weren't pregnant. right? Just think about it. Like if you weren't pregnant.
Yeah, I think I would have been a mess.
I think, I honestly feel like it was a godsend that you were pregnant at the time, because if you weren't, I don't know if I could have collected the pieces. Like I'm sure we would have been, but I just think that you would have been a complete mess. We would have just dealt with it differently, because you would have been, we would have played victim. I guess that's so easy, right? But because you couldn't, because you had to care for someone else, you didn't play victim, because you knew you had to hold it together. And I think that's a really good, strong lesson for any of you going through these adversities, is that if we make it for ourselves, typically we won't do it. We won't. Well, not that we won't do it, but we would do more for others than we would do for ourselves. And so when I think one of the key things is go find your why, and it's typically not you. It's typically someone else that you're living for, to help you lift your game. So I think that's really important. You mentioned something about the podcast. Sorry, not podcast, but just inspirational stuff. I've been listening to a lot of inspirational stuff for a very long time. And trust me, like, even though with all the years of, embedding these information in my head, I still have problems to this day as we're recording this. And it's about, the analogy that I have, it's like someone always said is that your brain, your mind is like a garden. And, you can, prepare with the greatest soil and the sun and the water and grow some beautiful flowers and plant some beautiful seeds. You're always going to have weeds in the garden. Like, you still got a garden. We don't garden. We hate gardening. But
I like gardening.
Oh, you garden? I hate gardening.
But you have to be vigilant against those gardens.
But you still have to be vigilant, because weeds are still going to grow no matter what.
Yeah.
And so, therefore, you have to pick up those weeds and take it out. And those weeds are negative stuff, right? If you use that analogy. And in life, there's always going to be negative thoughts coming to you no matter what. We live in this environment.
So are you saying be more self-aware of what thoughts you are having? Because you can say, okay, I'm being self-aware. I'm having a negative thought. I can't get out of this negative, because it's easy to say, yeah, I'm having one, but how do you break that cycle? How do you get out of it? Because that is just so hard. And to some days, especially when you're not feeling well and you're in that place, it is so hard to climb out of it.
I think it's about condensing the time. So it's about, rather than saying like it's, someone said this beautifully after my Ireland trip that we did, that we talked about, was that it's not about a switch. It's not like I came home and was like, oh, I'm a different person. Like, I don't think I came home like a different person. I'm still who I am. But something shifted. But it wasn't like a switch being switched on or off. It was more like a dial. And it's about me living in that moment and then dialing it up as I go through the years. And if you dial up, and it's more, if you see it as dial, not a switch, and all of a sudden, like, you lose the expectation of like, I have to transform, or I have to be, have a champion's mind. No, it's not. You are who you are. It's about how can you dial it up at that moment in time. And how you dial up is losing the expectation that this has to happen for years or months or even weeks, like you just said. Yeah. Sometimes it's minute by minute. Like, sometimes it's fighting that adversity and like, how can I stay strong in this next minute? How can I shift my focus in the next minute and then the next 2 minutes? And it's about training that brain. And it's like anything else. Your mind is like a muscle, and you're focusing on a champion's mind is not about just doing it once or twice or once a month, and not even once every 2 weeks. It's about constantly training that brain so that you're self-aware. That's number one. And number two, being the ability to go, okay, now that I know that I'm aware that I'm going down this rabbit hole of this negative thought pattern, how do I, switch gears and switch? Now, in order to switch, it's easier if you've done it a few times or even 1,000 times. It's harder the very first time. It's like you going to work out for the first time. Like, if you came up to just say go to CrossFit gym right now, like you'll be like, what am I even doing here? Like, you wouldn't even know the pattern. But if you've done it enough times, you're going to be created that. Like, waking up. Remember when I first started CrossFit like a year and a half ago? Waking up at 5 o'clock in the morning. That was hard work.
Crazy.
Right? Yeah, crazy. And even to this day, this morning, because Christian had a bad night, and I slept in his bed this night, and I put in my alarm clock at 5:01. It was hard. It was hard, but even last week, it was hard work. And I'm like, the only thought in my head was like, get out of bed, get out of bed, get out. That was the only mantra that I had. And once I get out of bed, it's like that switch. All of a sudden, everything takes over. So I think it's about keeping it short, keeping it. Don't get so stressed about trying to navigate yourself.
Once.
Yeah, no, don't navigate to the months and years. Just keep it short and change pattern.
Make it smaller. I think definitely when you're in that hole or you're in that hard place that you're struggling, make it smaller. And it might not be 10 things you're doing that day. It might just be one thing. and to celebrate that as a success and not be disappointed that you're not doing what you could normally be doing, because that doesn't help. And I think another thing that I found during the situation with my father is what I could control, which we kind of touched on as well, because I couldn't control what was happening with my father or what the doctors were doing. But what I could control was who was entering his room, because that was a big thing for us as well with Mindset, was that we did not want them speaking negatively in the room with my father, although he was unconscious. Yeah. I don't know if he can hear or how it could affect him. And so I was very clear with all the doctors, you do not enter this room and speak negative or say he has no chance. If you want to have that conversation with me, we have it outside the door. And they looked at me like I was crazy. Yeah. But again, putting somebody else in front of myself, I was an advocate for my father at that point. Yeah. And a lot of people might not know this. I've got a couple of degrees. One of them is chiropractic. And I had actually just stopped chiropractic. I've got a Bachelor of Chiropractic Science in Chiropractic, and had decided at that point in time, which is very interesting, is decided to stop and not to become a chiropractor.
Yeah,
and
after
just
3
I think
long years, yeah.
And I think just 3 weeks before that, I'd actually taken all my accreditation on CPR and all of that. And then this incident happens, and you got to kind of sit back and look and say, do you know what? Maybe the universe was preparing me to give me the skills I needed to cope with this situation, because I knew anatomy, I knew physiology, I knew how to do stretches, I knew nerve innervations, I knew which bones went where, and especially a spinal injury. And here I've just devoted 3 years of my life to studying the spine. Having that knowledge, and that's what I want to say, knowledge, surrounding yourself with people who are knowledgeable, gaining knowledge for yourself, gives you back power, and it gives you control, because it puts the ball in your court. Because especially when you're out of your depth, there'll be lots of people telling you how things should be. And it's your life, it's your rules. Gain as much of it back as you can, because that gives you the ability to have that control.
Well, the environment is so huge. Like the environment you can only control the hospital environment as much as you can. I mean, like it's freaking beeping noises everywhere. It's very, very stressful. It's, that's one of the reasons why we had a home birth, and we can talk about that later. But we get to control our environment. I mean, this is our environment right now. I know you kind of make fun of this, sports background here, but this is my environment. This is my little room. This is where I kind of come here and play every day. Yes. It's surrounded by greatness. I want to feel like I got greatness surrounding me all the time.
Hello.
I know you're constantly in my life, but you're not here in my office. So that's one thing. And I remember we watched that movie last night. We watched a part of a movie called I think it was The Walk, which is about Philippe Petit, and who walked across the Empire State Buildings.
On a wire.
On the Twin Towers, on the wire.
The former Twin Towers.
And he was, before he did all that, he was actually a street performer. And one of the things that he did, he would never speak in his circle. So he would draw chalk of a circle around him.
When he was doing his street
performance, and he would not speak. And he would just do like mime, but he would just perform. But anybody who crossed the line, even if a foot, he would actually push them back or step on it, or just to make sure. But that he was trying to control his environment. And this is what it is. It's so important that you get to control the environment, because your environment dictates how you feel or think. And that's the champion's mindset. One is control the environment that you actually have, which is in your control. I mean, certain things you can't control. You can't control whether it's going to be raining or sunny today. However, you can control what that means to us. And perfect example, one more example. When we went to Bali, when it was pouring rain for the first 2 days we were there in Bali, we can't control it. But what did the W do? They gave us fruit shots, I think.
So cool.
Right?
So cool.
Just went around because they knew that they couldn't change the environment, but they can change how we feel about it. And so they all came around with these pineapple, papaya, shots. So
amazing drinks in a little shot glass with some dry ice effect, that all this smoke is just billowing down. So it was very theatrical.
Yeah.
It was complimentary.
And they came with a card, and they dropped off the card after they dropped these shots, and it said basically something to the effect of, every rainbow requires some rain, and that changed the context of how we saw the whole situation. Like, they can't control the rain, but we're going to sit there anyways. We're going to have to be here and enjoy the environment, or we can be pissed off about it. And basically, that little card, that little shot, fruit shot, just changed the context. And I think it's about those little switches, those little moments where we can actually start to see things a little bit differently. I will end off with one more tip on this. When you're feeling like you're trying to take steps forward and things are kind of pushing you back, it's finding the gratitude. It's giving thanks. You went for the sunshine and the walks. I think it's about every day, just being either every day or every moment when you're at it, is being thankful. We were so thankful for the smallest things we did, Dad. I mean, I'm talking about like, did he actually
Did
was
he
able to
blink?
move, or did he blink, or did he understand us? Especially in the first video, he did eventually able to talk, but it took him months to be able to get his speech back. We were looking for the smallest signs. As a chiropractor, we're doing neurological signs. It's like, oh my God, he actually reacted. Doing a neurological sign. Like those things meant a lot to us. They were so small. Like what we take for granted, like just moving our fingers and hands, and like you don't like. I mean, for anybody who understands and sees, who had experience with quadriplegia or any sort of any type of situation like that, will understand how much we take for granted. In life, that happened in a split second. We turned our backs, and the next thing you knew, our life completely changed. And giving thanks to those moments of time, like every moment, whether it be the sunshine, being thankful that the sunshine's out today, or being thankful that someone's was able to give you a cup of coffee, or whatever it is. It's just spending that moment to have grace and gratitude will keep your mind focused on what's right in the world and not what's bad. Because what our tendency to do in our in life is that we move towards the negative stuff of what we're missing and what's happening to us, rather than what's actually happening that's right in us.
I think that's a really good point. We're surrounded by the news that is consistently negative. We are training our minds without even knowing it to be that way. So I think to end off this podcast, I think that was a really, really strong point.
Thank you. So I hope that answers your question, and keep them coming. We'll try to tackle them as much as we can. And these questions and topics are great suggestions. Sometimes we don't think about it. Sometimes we might have done it, but maybe it was 3 years ago. Who knows? I can't remember what we did last week. And
I didn't listen. So between the two of us, we're great.
Yeah, that's right. Everything's fresh. Everything's new. This is a great episode, and thank you for sharing your comments. And one of the things I want to share with people is that I'm kind of excited. September 10th and 11th, Melbourne Convention Center. We're having the Wellness Summit. And guess, we haven't actually booked our flights, but we might, potentially, 99% is happening. That's, we're actually going to have Karen there too. So if we haven't booked our flights, but I think we're going to convince her to be there, and I think we'll definitely bring our families as well and the kids. So they're going to attend their first wellness summit, and for those listening, I'd love for you to attend your first summit too as well. Make sure you go to thewellnesssummit.com. If you want us, here's a special code for you. Go to LT100. LT100 is a promo code that you can enter, and that will give you $100 off the regular price tickets. So for those of you who already bought tickets, fantastic. I'm looking forward to seeing you. We are having the Wellness Couch Awards night. I don't even think you know about this. On the Saturday night, where
do I stand a chance? Can I win?
You could be best newcomer.
Newcomer.
It's about voting, guys, and there will be votes coming up. I'm hoping to get best hair, and Damien is going to be best no hair. But we're going to get some awards. So, anyways. Please, guys, thank you so much for spending some time on Facebook. Go to facebook.com/Inside the Champions Mind. Thanks for liking it and commenting. Keep the comments coming, because I think it helps us develop new content and helps your confidence. And you're like a pro at this now. I might need to step back, I think. So, and also go to the Wellness Couch. But more importantly, go to the wellnesssummit.com to buy your tickets at the Melbourne Convention Center, September 10th and 11th. I really look forward to seeing you there, and tell your friends about the Inside Champions Mind. I think the only way to get this podcast out to the public, where I got to change direction, make sure you go and tell your friends about this podcast, because it's really important. Go check out the video, or go to YouTube, or maybe just tell people about the podcast.
Because this is a complete sensory experience, really. You do need the video.
Yeah,
you need it 2D. I can't provide you 3D, but I can provide you 2D.
That's right. You need to see this
if you
medal.
want to check out the medal, which go for gold, it is here.
That's right. Oh, and don't forget, if you're actually interested in Podium, which is the first Champions Mind retreat that we're doing, is a 4 days, 3 nights package that we're trying to create right now. We just need to have people who are interested. If you are interested, go to InsideTheChampionsMind.com. That's InsideTheChampionsMind.com, or the link will be in the show notes. But please go there, because we'd just love to know. We just need to make sure that if there's numbers there, great, we'll create it. If there isn't, that's fine. We'll create one next year. Okay?
We'll go alone.
Yeah. It's going to be in Bali at the W Hotel. Trust me, you don't want to miss it.
You do not.
Guys, this has been Inside the Champions Mind, a show dedicated to helping you overcome mediocrity in the pursuit of being world-class in anything you do in life and love and legacy. I'm Laurence Tam.
And I'm Karen Tam.
We'll see you on episode 103. Take care. Bye.